Hey guys, this is Alan over at Sonic Electronics, and today we got ourselves a 2012 Jeep Wrangler from the guys over at Poly Performance out of San Luis Obispo, and they dropped it off because they said they wanted us to upgrade the factory audio system in there. This particular Jeep was outfitted with an aftermarket roll cage, which changes the normal factory location and installation procedure of the factory components that normally would have came in this Jeep. So here's some of the tools you're going to need for this install. You're definitely going to need some sockets. You're definitely going to probably want to drill. I have an impact here, which is an electric impact. If you've got a regular air driven impact, that's awesome too. If not, you can just use your standard ratchet, some pry tools, and that way you can pop some panels off without scratching anything, some crimpers, some strippers. Of course, everybody needs a blade. Connectors and the option of soldering. A magnetic tray is nice so you don't lose your stuff. You'll also need a tone generator or a 9-volt battery to possibly check polarity on speakers. Another thing that you'll also want that I kind of find useful is a big old industrial size zip tie. It's kind of nice for fishing wires through. Tape one in, pull it up, it's easy. So in this install, we're going to be utilizing the factory OEM head unit, so that way all the functionality of the Uconnect and steering wheel controls still function. And we're also going to be integrating with the factory subwoofer. We're adding a 5-channel amplifier that will override the factory OEM amplifier, so that will be disconnected and not used in this install. And we're also going to be showing you step by step the correct way to install this with multiple methods of installation throughout the whole video. So now as we get started, one of the main key things is knowing where you're putting your equipment, knowing the layout. So for us, we know we're going to be replacing the front speakers, the rear speakers. We're going to be adding the 5-channel amplifier that we discussed earlier, and we're going to be retaining the factory OEM head unit. So I've already went ahead and looked, and I know that I can fit that amplifier right here underneath the seat, which I've done a few of these Jeeps before, and that seems to be a good location that works really well. We know where the factory speaker locations are in the front and the back. We're going to go ahead and start with disassembling the vehicle, and we're going to start with removing the radio and the dash around it. So let's get started. Now it looks like we got all our 7 mils removed. So it'd be a good idea to tilt the steering wheel down. It'll give you a little bit more room to pop off this dash panel. And pretty much we have similar panel clips holding this in, just like this lower panel that we just removed a second ago. So pretty much just go ahead and evenly kind of pull forward. It's going to kind of make some noises as those panel clips release. Don't be afraid, that's just the way it is. So one of the reasons why we disconnected the battery before we started on this is now at this point of the installation, is that there is a connector under the seat which connects to the sensor that's in the seat for the airbag system. And so disconnecting the battery eliminates tripping that light if you accidentally turn on the key, and it's the most safest way to do it. It's usually a good idea to have somebody give you a hand. The seat is not terribly heavy, it's just kind of a little awkward. You don't want to scratch the door panel or accidentally bump it here and scratch the paint on your car. We're going to call our friendly neighbor Anthony over and see if he can lend us a hand. Hey Anthony, you think you can come over here and give me a hand with the seat? Ready, good neighbor? Okay, am I clear? So we removed everything in order to basically kind of pull this forward enough to get to our speaker. Because realistically, in order to pull this off completely where it's 100% out of your way, you pretty much have to remove the whole entire dashboard, and that would be a lot of work. So I found this to be a simple trick that just allows you to hold this back and sneak enough in there to get the speaker out. And as you can see, there's a bunch of plastic shavings in here from when they cut this around the roll bar. So we'll probably go ahead and blow that out and clean it out for them. So we definitely don't want any of that kind of debris to get stuck inside the new speaker. That wouldn't be good. Done. All right, so we just got done installing the rear speakers. We installed the NVX VSP 65s in the rear, and now we're basically going to be moving on to the front. Just like we talked about in the beginning of the video, this particular Jeep does have a roll cage, and it's outfitted with speaker locations that are a little different from the factory, and because of that we do have to put in a 4-inch in the front. In the front we're using the NVX VSP 4, which is the 4-inch coaxial. Because this has a roll cage, it is a little different. We chose to go with a coaxial and stick with it. It does have factory tweeter locations up here on the dash. Because the roll bar there is pretty much completely blocking it, we chose to stick with a coaxial. Okay, now that we've finished the rear speakers and the front speakers, we're going to be moving on to the aftermarket 5-channel amplifier. This is the JAD 905. This is a 900 watt 5-channel amplifier that's going to be driving the front and rear speakers and the sub. One of the things that you need to make sure you have when installing an amplifier is the appropriate cables. We're going to be using the NVX Audio XAPK4, which is a 4-gauge amplifier power kit. With an amplifier, you need to run power, ground, and remote for the amplifier to turn on, of course, as well as speaker leads to send signal to all your speakers. And then we need to run RCA cables for signal from the radio to the amplifier. What's cool about where this amplifier actually is going to be installed is it actually allows us to utilize the factory grounding point. So as you can see right here, there's a factory ground. So that's where this guy is going to go. Right there you can see the little factory little rubber grommet. Somebody already previously has put a little slit in it and ran a cable through. And so we're going to follow through there from the engine bay to our amplifier. I've routed the power wire along the top here with the factory wires that are already running along there. I pretty much zip tied approximately every 6 inches all the way over to the battery. And you want to really make sure that cable is secure. You want it out of the way from anything. You don't want the cable to fall down on the motor and melt. So I found that this seems like this should be a pretty good spot for the fuse holder to go. So what I've done is I've taken some black electrical tape and wrapped it around. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep the braided loom here from kind of fraying and splitting and pulling back. Just kind of like the shrink tube did that was already pre-installed from the manufacturer. So that way I can cut it here, install it, and then I can cut it wherever I want for the length to go to the other side of the battery. All right, as you can see, the cable dropped down. We've got it zip tied approximately every 6 inches, and we got our cable where it needs to be. Okay, so we got the radio just enough to where it's staying in place. We got our adapter plugged in. Once we know that everything's working, then we'll go ahead and zip tie this all up nicely, and that way the radio fits back in nice and secure. Okay, now I'm confident that the speaker colors on the sheet are correct, but if you do want to verify them, you can take your battery, just like we discussed earlier, or if you happen to have a tone generator, and you can tone generate your speaker. And that's supposed to be our front right, which it is our front right speaker. You can't hear it, but I can. All right, so we just got all the wiring done at the factory amplifier. We got our front left, front right, rear right speaker all connected. And we got our sub. It is a dual 2 ohm, so we had to wire it in series. So that way we can wire it to a 4 ohm load. If we would have wired it in parallel, that would have wired down to 1 ohm. And this particular amplifier is not stable at 1 ohm. And the factory woofer probably wouldn't even be able to necessarily handle all that power. Earlier we talked about this being a great grounding point because that's where the factory grounds go. And it's a nut and a bolt, so it's not going to come loose. So we're going to ground our amplifier there. And as you can see, if you pull this one off, it's already clean. There's no paint. We're going to add our guy onto there just like that. We're going to put the wire clocked in a way that's going to follow the other wires. And you can see on this side, it's also free from paint also. So you've got a good connection both top and bottom. So a little tip here, if you saw me kind of bend these, the reason why I do that is just so the screw that screws in that holds down the amplifier has a little bit of a thicker wire to bite into. Another thing that it's nice that I use it for is, let's say you run out of a particular size connector. By folding that, it won't fit into a red connector anymore, but it definitely will fit into a blue. So it's just kind of nice to make sure your connection's nice and snug. Okay, so we temporarily connected power to the battery for the amplifier, and we turned on the radio to verify that the adapter is working and the amplifier turns on. Everything works, so we're going to start putting the car back together and cleaning everything up, zip tying up everything, and we should have a finished product. As you can see, we got the adapter off to the side, and we definitely have perfect fitment back all the way on the radio. And so now I'm going to go ahead and mount the amplifier down, zip tie all that up, and start reassembling, and then it will be a wrap. All right, so we just got done with the whole install. Everything turned out really nice, and everything works great. The pack integration adapter worked really well. It allowed us to delete the factory amplifier out of the equation with retaining steering wheel controls. The Uconnect still works. We got the 5-channel under the seat here, which is powering the front and rear speakers and the factory sub. Everything definitely is a lot louder, cleaner, and now that we actually have some better power on that factory sub, it really comes to life. So hope you liked the video. Make sure to check us out on all the social media networks like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Till next time, Allyn with Sonic Electronics. Thanks for watching.